block, and this is the block. And behind me I've arranged 8 of the blocks just to give you an idea of what you can do with them. And I'm using a technique today called strip piecing. Not strip teasing, but strip piecing. And it'll make 8 blocks at a time. And usually with this technique you use width of fabric strips. But I'm going to be using fat quarters because I have a bundle that I just love and I wanted to do a project with. So let's get started and I'll show you the technique. The log cabin block consists of the center, which traditionally was colored red to signify the hearth of the log cabin home, surrounded by logs. And you work from the center outward to whatever size you prefer, and today I'm going to make my blocks finish at 10 inches square. The key to your log cabin block is really having it consist of light colored fabrics and dark colored fabrics. So I've gone ahead and picked out 2 lights and 2 darks, kind of in the turquoise family from my fat quarter bundle. And then really any color you would like for your center of your log cabin block, depending on how you want the finished block to look. So I'm going to cut these into 2.5 inch strips and I'll show you how to do that next. The fat quarters measure approximately 18 inches across and 22 inches long. So I'm just going to fold it in half, wrong sides together. Although on the batiks it is hard to tell right side from wrong side. I think they're interchangeable. So now it's 18 by approximately 11 inches. And I don't even have to clean up the edge because it's really even. So I'm just going to start cutting my 2.5 inch strips. And again, I should get 7 out of each fat quarter. And I will not need all of the light colored strips for I'm going to make 8 blocks today. I won't need them all, but I'm going to still cut the fat quarter completely into strips because I'll need it later as I'm making more of these blocks. So there's my first one. I'll continue on and I'll do the same exact thing with all my other fat quarters. Here's the fabric that I picked out for my center square. I have 1 strip of that, and here's my first light colored strip. So what you do is you simply put them right sides together. Like so. And stitch them together with a 1/4 inch seam all the way along the edge. And I just check every once in a while to make sure I'm still lined up. And just continue on till the end. I have it sewn all together. Now I'm going to take it to the iron and I'm going to press it away from the center. So I like to set the seam like so. Open it up and give it a press. And again, you're pressing away from your center. It's a little hot. And I will keep pressing and meet you back at the cutting table. The next step is to cut your strip set into separate units. And you determine the size of these units based on the size of the strip that you cut for your center of your block. I cut this strip at 2.5 inches, just like my other strips, but you could make this any size you want. So say you used a 4-inch strip, then you would cut this into a 4-inch segment. So I'm going to go across and I'm going to first of all clean this edge up a little bit. It's pretty even, but just in case. And again, because I cut this strip at 2.5 inches, I'm going to cut 2.5 inch blocks. And I like to use a smaller size ruler when I'm dealing with smaller cutting. Just easier to control this. So I will keep cutting this until I reach the end. I was able to get 8 units cut from my strip set. The next step is to take the same color as your first light colored fabric that you chose. Take the light colored strip face up. Place one of your units with the center square away from you, face down. Line it up, and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam right along here. And as you go, you're going to keep adding in the same fashion down the strip. Now you do not have to tie off, and you don't have to be exactly at the top because you have plenty of fabric. And I think 4 of these units will fit on one strip. So as I'm getting to the end, I'll place my next one, center square away from me, face down. And I just leave a little gap. I don't know if you can see that, because again, I have plenty of fabric available on my strip. It's kind of a fun, relaxing way to make this block. And I think one more will fit on there, like so. And I'll repeat that with my other light colored strip with my other 4 units. Next, you're going to cut apart your units, and this might be the tedious part of the block if you don't enjoy cutting. It's a little time consuming, but the alternative is to make the block without strip piecing. And to me, this is just a more fun way to make the block. So see how there's an edge right there? So I will take that off so it's even. And I will continue cutting these units apart. And meet you at the iron. Again, just like before, I'm going to set my stitches by giving it a press, open it up, and press away from the center. And I'll repeat that with each of the 8 units. We have the center 2 lights, so now it's time to do 2 darks. So I'm going to pick one of my dark colors. And I'm going to do right side up. Again, with the batik, it's they're pretty much reversible. And again, I'm going to place one of my units on top, right sides together, with my center away from me, and this unit that I just sewed, there's no seam in it, facing me. So that's how you can always tell your long right next to you. I'm going to line it up. And again, a 1/4 inch seam, just like I did before. I was able to fit 4 of my units on my first strip. So I'm going to take my next strip, same color, and finish with the other 4 units exactly the same way. I have my units clipped apart and pressed. I'm going to continue on with this same color. Grab another strip, right side up. I'm going to place the unit with the fabric that I just sewed on closest to me. Again, I'm going to attach them to the strip with a 1/4 inch seam. Again, I've clipped apart the blocks and pressed them. Here's what it looks like so far. And I'm just going to repeat the process, and I'll do it off camera. So since I just did 2 darks, I'm going to continue on with 2 lights. And again, just to remind you, put it face up, your strip, and then put your block, align the edges with the piece that you just sewed closest to you. I'm ready to sew my final dark colored strips onto my blocks. And I do know from making my previous log cabin blocks that 7 of these strips are not quite enough to finish off all 8 blocks, but luckily I have 2 strips left from the prior dark color. So I'll use those and my other 7 and I'll finish up the blocks. I'm sewing on my last 2 blocks to my final strip. And one thing I did want to mention is I do like to keep my blocks already facing the right direction of how I want to attach them to my strip. Here's the final press, the last block. I've pinned the completed blocks behind me. I think they turned out just beautifully, and they finish at 10 inches square. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.